Hello, hello, welcome. This is Here's to Your Good Health. My name is Linda Prezioso. I'm a nurse practitioner at Family Medical Center. And tonight I have a new friend, y'all, and I just met her a couple weeks ago, and we just kind of clicked. She's really sweet. You're going to love her once she starts talking and telling us all about her specialty and what she does. But this is Caneisha Berry,
Yes.
and she's pretty new to the area.
Yes.
Matter of fact, she just read online about this ladies group I belong to. I didn't even know there was anything online that, and she just popped in, and so we've been kind of buddies ever since. And then we invited her to another little group I go to on Wednesdays, and here she is. So I'm excited. So welcome, Caneisha. Welcome to Rocky Mount.
So much. Thank you. I think you're the first person to say that. So thank
Really?
you. We've been here for like a year. Yeah.
Oh my.
Most people say, "Well, why did you move to Rocky Mount?"
Why did you move to Rocky Mount?
We moved here because my husband got a job first in Halifax, and I didn't want to live out there. And then now he's working in Edgecombe County. So
And
why
what
we
does he
moved
do?
here. He's a vice principal.
Oh, that's right. I remember you told me that now.
Yeah.
And so you're tagged along for the ride. Do you have roots here? Do you have family here?
So I grew up in Ahoskie, North Carolina. And interesting enough, so we spent 10 years out of the country. But before we left the country, we was living in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Rocky Mount was that halfway point where I would meet my mom.
That's right.
So she could get the grandbabies. And it's funny because my children now, when they come, they're so tickled that the McDonald's.
Oh, is that where you met Mom?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, though. It's a special little memory for them.
It is.
Yeah,
It is to think that we now live here. And my son had this affinity for Krispy Kreme donuts back then. So that was one of his big treats when he got to meet with Grandma.
Oh,
they always get Krispy Kreme before they go back to Ahoskie. So.
Okay. So he's got to have a Krispy Kreme when he comes to.
Oh, yes. And even when he visits now. He wants to go to Krispy Kreme.
Yeah. So tell me about your kids. How old are they? Where are they?
So we have 3 children. DeMarcus is what I call my bonus baby. DeMarcus is 30 years old, married with 2 little baby girls. And I call him my bonus baby because when I met my husband, he had a little boy that I got to be a part of his life.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So yeah, he was my first baby, my heart, everything. And then we have Bryson, my firstborn. Bryson is 19. He's out in school in McAllister in Minnesota. And then Brianna, she is 17. And she left me out of North Carolina to go live with her auntie in Florida because of everything that was going on with the with COVID and the restrictions. And she was just, because being new here, she hadn't met anyone.
Right.
She was excited to start her junior year of school, to meet new friends. And she spent her whole junior year in her room. Yeah. So she's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. I don't blame her.
Yeah, and we was excited that her auntie said yes, and we encouraged it. Like I wasn't the mom who was like, no, you can't leave me.
You're my baby.
Right. Yeah. Her soul needed more, so I'm on for soul care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So Caneisha has a really interesting story, and what she did say before they left the country. And so her and her family lived in China for 10 years. So tell us all about that. How did you get there? What did you do? Why did you stay?
Yeah.
Is the food good?
Why did I stay? The food is delicious.
Okay.
What we have here is not
any Chinese.
It's not real authentic Chinese food. In fact, even many of them will tell you that's more Korean because it's sweet. A lot of the food here is very sweet. There is not. It's just so delicious there. So it tastes very clean. Like, I can't explain it. It's just so good when we think about the food. But we moved to China because, again, my husband, honestly, so we spent 3 years in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and that's where we started. He applied for a job, I think he saw online. He thought it was a joke. And then, of course, they called him, and he came home, and he's like, are you willing to live in another country? And I'm like, yeah, let's pack my bags. Because
she's an adventurous.
I am. All my life, I wanted to, see the world. So when he came home with that idea, I was like, let's sell everything, let's go. And a lot of my family and friends were like, are you sure you're going to do this? And we did. And it was really good for our family because in order for us to live in the UAE, I had to homeschool my children. So I got to come out of corporate America, homeschool. And then after 3 years of being there, Andre wanted something different. It's a beautiful country, but the education system is interesting. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And so that's when we ended up going to China. And of course, the education system there is phenomenal because we was in international schools. The children was able to attend school there. And I never thought we would be in China for 7 years. I didn't want to go. So the fact that we end up there so long, I was like, wow. But it was good for our family. It was the quality of life that we got to live there, the exposure to kind of the world that the children got to grow up under. They both began to learn the language, of course, going to school. And to be a teacher in a foreign country, in China particularly, teachers are honored there. So he got lots of respect. The pay is fabulous.
It's all about the pay.
All about the pay. So that's what kind of kept us there for as long as it did. And then once we got closer to Bryson graduating from high school, we knew we needed to stay until he finished high school. Yeah. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, did you do any of your? Caneisha is a
life coach.
Yes. And just got a degree in pastoral counseling.
Yes.
So that's that's her niche. And did you do that while you were in China, or you did that when you came back here, or what?
So I actually started in China. I got my degree for coaching in the UAE, and then I kind of began to build the business while I was in China. And I wasn't sure how or what I was going to do with it while I was there. But interesting enough, like the community, the expat community, foreigners, they kind of taught me what they needed. And it was just amazing, beautiful thing. So I became this source for them for emotional health, for focus, for drive, for goals. Particularly, you find a lot of women who travel with their husbands. And they did what I was doing, had left corporate, raising children. Now the kids are getting older, and it's like, I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah, what do I do now?
What do I do now? And so some of the ladies that I work with started companies, and others just changed their careers because they would be like, people come to me with the words, Caneisha, I feel stuck. That's usually the language that I get every time. I don't know what it is, but I feel stuck. And for me, stuck means that emotionally you haven't been able to process what you're experiencing. And so I just kind of help them begin to process what they're experiencing, what they're thinking, and then setting them on the path of where they want to go, and come up with strategies to get you there as a coach. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so then what made you you went to Liberty, didn't you?
I did.
Virginia?
Yes.
West Virginia.
Yes, it's in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Lynchburg, yeah.
But I, of course, did it all online.
Right.
That was, for me, it was a God calling, because I had promised myself that I was never going back to university once I graduated. Don't
you know you never say never. Whenever you say never, God says, come on, little girl, here we go.
You would think I would learn that.
Yeah, well, we're sometimes slower than we need to be.
Yes, and I'm definitely that person. So that's why I went back to school to get my degree in pastoral counseling, because I knew that if I was to go back to any form of education, it had to be through a biblical perspective. And I didn't feel called to ministry. Well, I didn't feel called to pastoring.
Right.
But I do have a calling for ministry.
Right.
And definitely helping people overcome the emotional hurt and pains that they just need a little help getting through.
Sure.
And so.
And we all have those stumbling blocks in our life.
Yes. And and the thing is, I want people to understand it's normal and it's okay to get help. Because a lot of people really have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
They think I'm fine.
Well, yeah, I said that for a long time. I'm fine. Yeah. And then my life fell apart. I went, oh, maybe I'm not so fine.
I was going to ask, how did your fine show up to the world? Like, what did your fine look like to everyone else?
Oh, they thought my fine was, I painted this picture of happy, content, successful, loved my job. I still do love my job.
Yeah.
But I was very unhappy. And from other people's perspective, I was successful, but I didn't feel successful. I wasn't really fulfilled the way what I thought I should be. I always felt, look, she's counseling me now, y'all. I always felt like I needed something more. Like I got my 2-year nursing degree, and I said, I've got to have my BSN, a 4-year. And that is pushed in the nursing community, so it wasn't just all me. So I got my bachelor's degree, and I thought, I think I want to go teach. I like to teach. And so at that time, you could work for the state for 5 years and get your insurance paid for life.
Oh, great.
And so I said, all right, I'm going to get my master's in nursing education. I'm going to go teach at the community college level. Yeah. Well, in between the time of me deciding that, going to school, getting my degree, they changed that 5 years to 20 years.
Whoa.
And I didn't think I had 20 years left in me because I was already older.
Okay.
And so, and then I had always wanted to be a nurse practitioner. But I didn't have the confidence that I could do it. I didn't think I was smart enough because I had voices in my mind that I listened to that told me that was a lie. I mean, that I didn't have the oomph. But I have a husband who thinks I'm the cat's meow.
Oh, don't you love that?
Yes.
Wonderful. I love to hear that.
And so he pushed me.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, because by this time I had a master's degree, and I said, okay, I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring for nurse practitioner. So I applied at ECU, and I got in, and here I am.
Awesome.
10 years later.
Awesome.
So, but anyway, we're getting off of me and back on you.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
You can't counsel me over TV.
Okay. That's fair enough.
So, after 10 years, you were there, and you must have learned a lot in those 10 years.
You know, I learned a lot about me with the emotional, because I had begun that process of I call it the awakening. So one of my coaching programs is called The Awakening. Because I learned that I had to wake up to that part you mentioned, those voices in your head telling you what you can't do, what you can't accomplish, what you can't. Literally, there was like a moment in time where I would know those voices, and I felt like they were true and they were mine, but I didn't know that I could separate myself from the voices. I thought the voices was me. I thought it was that's my personality. The awakening lets me hear the voice and know that this is not telling me the truth, like you said, right? And so the processing of, oh my God, like living abroad, the things God introduced me to, the confidence that He gave me, began to reveal to me some of my, what I call my false beliefs. It was happening in my marriage. Earlier, I think you had kind of mentioned, how did I get into coaching and that kind of thing. It was because after 12 years of being married, I thought we was happily married, but we were kind of like you. We was smiling and we was going through the motions, but there was something lacking and missing for both of us. And part of my story of growing up is, as long as it looks good.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so as long as it looks pretty, the box is pretty, we don't tell anybody what's in the box.
Right, and we're not going to mess with it.
We're not going to mess with it. Just nobody knows.
And don't you think, I mean, here, you and I, we've only known each other a few weeks, but we both kind of have the same, went down the same path. Yeah. So it can't be just you and I. There's got to be plenty out there that either have done it or are going through it or, and so that's one reason why I wanted Caneisha to come tonight, because she's got, this background of coaching, and she's got this background in some mental health, and I wanted to really focus on the stress. She tells me she gets stressed out when she talks about stress.
That's the one topic.
But I wanted to talk about the stress that has happened to us, meaning the United States, well, not even just the United States, the world, with COVID. And I'm very concerned about the effects it's having on children. And so that's really what I brought her to talk about. And we're going to get to that in a minute, but go ahead. Now that you and I are not the only ones in that boat.
Yeah, it was my husband saying, okay, I need help. We never did couples counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And even now when I get couples that want to work with me, I really require them to give me at least 3 sessions individually before we work together.
Right.
Because when we work individually, when he went to his counselor and I went to mine, she was a counselor / coach, and she said, oh, Caneisha, with the way you see the world, because I was very optimistic, you should become a coach, which is what led me there. But it was the process of individually getting our own healing, getting the awareness of who we were individually, mm-hmm. and what we brought to the marriage with us. Right? Mm-hmm. Like these really bad, crazy ideas about what love is, what marriage is supposed to be.
Yeah, and you only have 1 or 2 teachers of that, and it's usually your parents.
Right.
And either they stayed together and probably weren't very happy, or they were divorced and
that was my story.
Probably weren't very happy again.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was my story. I had come out of single mom, and my father was remarried, but I didn't see what that looked like. What does it look like to be in the house modeled, right? Mm-hmm. So whether intentionally or unintentionally, some of my husband's ideas had come from what I call like the Cinderella story of what love's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Love conquers all.
Right.
Love. And I tell people, we make love responsible for what character is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Love can't do what character is supposed to do.
That's right.
But when you're not even aware that, okay, I have these character flaws simply because of the way I'm thinking, you bring all of that in and you put all this stuff on your spouse, mm-hmm. and you're pushing them to make you happy. Yeah. And so that's kind of what brought us to it. Now we're like 2 what we call healthy, whole individuals. And I always say this about marriage. Marriage wasn't meant for happiness. It was meant for wholeness. And then when you get whole, meaning you do the emotional work it required, mm-hmm. you get to happy.
Well, that's really true, because my husband and I have been married a long time, and we've probably only been happy about the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, we had happy times.
Of course.
And, we always worked well. For whatever reason, we were always on the same page when it came to our kids, which was a good thing. And so, because a lot of times you'll say mom goes one way and dad goes the other, and the kids like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's nice when it's happy.
Oh,
and it's nice when it's fulfilling. And it's nice when it's comfortable.
Yeah. And you know what? Also, it's possible.
Yes.
Like, I feel bad for people who think, well, this is just what it is, and mm-hmm. my parents weren't happily married. This is just what marriage is.
Right.
You just kind of settle.
Right.
You don't have to settle.
Right.
It can be so, like, fun mm-hmm. and exciting. We're 24 years in. Mm-hmm. And I'm honestly tickled that literally every night when we go to bed, we're pretty much like laughing and joking, because just play these like silly games. And I didn't realize that we had this routine of laughing every night until I went and my husband would do these vacations, well, not vacations, but the school in China, they did this thing called Week Without Walls, where they take the kids away for a whole week to different parts of Asia. And so when he did that, I went to visit my cousin who lived in Dubai, because I was like, I'm not staying in China by myself. And that was my first time in the years sleeping without him. And when I went to bed that night, I was like, oh, everybody to laugh with, like everybody kind of to wrestle with,
right.
Because that's how we typically go to bed. And so realizing that those moments are so precious, and that even after 20 years of marriage, you can still have that.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's because Andre and I did like a lot of work to heal mm-hmm. Childhood wounds. Yes. All that kind of stuff that comes
all
up.
that stuff is there, and it plagues you, and you have no idea it's even there until you start getting to the point you start looking and go, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough.
And why does that make me so mad?
Right.
Why is this thing that everyone else thinks that's just a little thing?
Right.
Why do I'm willing to just like feel like I can kill you for this?
Right.
So that is the work that I'm always talking about. And some people are very afraid to go there, and I understand. But
well, it's scary because you gotta face the junk in you. You gotta fix you before you can fix anything else.
That again.
All right, it's time for our first break. So when we come back, we'll be talking with Caneisha, Berry Thoughtful Life. I love that name because her last name's Berry. I think it's so cute.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk more about what she does, what a health coach is, and how we can get coached through this thing we're all in called life. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And by the way, it is the 29th of September, and so we are live tonight. So if you have any questions at all, give us a call, 407-1111. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
At Down East Hearing Care Associates, we are dedicated to taking care of every client by providing personal, high-quality hearing care services. My staff and I know hearing loss affects each person and their loved ones differently, so we give you the time and the care you need to ensure the hearing technology chosen fits your lifestyle. At Down East Hearing Care, we also make custom ear molds and specialize in emergency hearing aid repairs. Down East Hearing Care Associates has 2 locations, one in Knightdale and one in Rocky Mount. We have hearing lives to save.
Hi, I'm Richard Goss, pharmacist and owner of Almonds Drug Store here in Rocky Mount. Here today with my wife and 2 daughters. For over 75 years, Almonds Drug Store has been the pharmacy of choice for residents of Edgecombe and Nash County. Our family is proud to call Rocky Mount home, and we are excited about the new services and products we are adding daily at both of our Almonds Drug Stores locations and also at our medical supply store.
Come in and see us at Almonds Medical Supply. We're an extension of Almonds Drug Stores, your local hometown pharmacy. We're here to service all your needs, from wheelchairs to walkers to orthopedic supports to compression hose to hard-to-find wound care supplies. And you'll always get that hometown customer service.
We want our patients to pay the best prices, get the best service available, and have a better pharmacy experience than they will get anywhere else. Our staff is committed to going above and beyond to meet our patients' needs. Whether it is working with your provider to get you the best medication at the best price, contacting your provider to get you refills or a prior authorization, or taking the time to review each of your medications with you personally, or perhaps even helping you find an old-time remedy or other hard-to-find items, your Almonds Drug Store staff will work hard to meet your pharmacy needs. At Almonds, we will deliver your prescriptions for free. Both of our stores have drive-through windows, we guarantee short wait times, and our pharmacists will come out to greet you personally and answer any questions you have. If you want to be met with a smiling face, or even want someone to greet you by name when you walk through the doors, we are the pharmacy for you.
Call Almonds Drugs today.
443-3138 or 446-0014.
Hello, hello, we're back. This is Here's to Your Good Life, Good Health. I'm Linda Prezioso. I think I know where I am, but it's been a long week. And my guest is Caneisha Berry, who I've just met and I've fallen in love with. She's such a special person and she's just really fun to talk to. And so we've been talking about, she's a life coach, but I really wanted to focus a little bit on stress and the stress of COVID and people being locked in. I was never locked in. I was an essential worker. Mm-hmm. And so I got up and got dressed and went to work every day. Yeah. So COVID didn't affect me in that particular realm of it. There's a lot of different pieces to COVID.
Yeah.
Like the mask drives me nuts, but
I think that's about driving us all crazy.
Yes.
Although I do like the fact I haven't had a cold.
Yep.
I do like that.
Yeah. I've been very healthy as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, and you did tell me a little story today you heard about from somebody in Walmart or someplace. So tell us that.
Yeah. So we were talking about as far as stress and particularly with kids and teenagers.
Yes.
I think nowadays because of all the technology, so I'll share personally, my daughter struggles with anxiety. And because of all the technology, she could research and she had the language to be able to talk about what was happening to her. And to be honest, as a mom at first, knowing who Brianna is, or thinking I know who she is, I thought, Bri, you're reading these things and then you're kind of acting it out. That was my first impulse. But then the more I started watching her, particularly in COVID, because she knew about her anxiety before COVID, but seeing her in COVID was pretty devastating. She barely came out of her room. She ate very little. And she just wasn't my lively, bubbly girl. And I was in Walmart, I think it was yesterday, and I heard this teenage boy telling his mom about his anxiety. He was explaining it well. I'm like kind of just standing back, and she goes, "Whatever that mess is you're talking about, I don't know what you're talking about. That mess, you're these young kids." And I'm like, and I just kind of, I'm afraid now in America to step in because people are kind of angry. Everybody seems so angry. And, living abroad, expats were very friendly because you're just so happy to see another foreigner, someone who speaks your language. But here in America now, everybody's so angry. But I wanted just to say to her, please validate what he's saying. Like, even if you don't understand it, let him know that you hear him. She's like, get out of here with that mess. And I'm like, because a lot of times our kids are going through so much. And anytime a child can actually have language for what they're going through, it makes it easier. But then you got to know that there are the teenagers or the younger ones who are going through something, but they don't have the language to explain it to you.
That's right.
And so people are saying, I don't understand why you acting like that. Why are you acting out? Because we have to begin to ask better questions of our kids. What are you feeling? What thoughts are happening right now? With Brianna, a lot of times, that's where I would take her. When she's in that place. I mean, there was time that this child was literally like her body locked up on her. And she's sitting in the chair and she can't move. And I'm like, Bri, what's wrong? And she's like, I can't move. What do you mean you can't move? But her anxiety was so heavy, literally she slept. And when I touched her, she just started screaming.
Oh, wow.
So what I knew to do was just let her be in that moment. Like, not try to shake her out of it or stop this. And I asked her, can I hold you? And she's like, yes. I said, do you want me to hold? So a lot of times I think when kids particularly are going through anxiety and dealing with any type of stress or any mental health, as parents, we need to ask them, what do you need right now? What do you need from me? How can I help you in this? Instead of like assuming we know or reacting to their behavior. Because I think a lot of times as parents, we parent the behavior, but we don't parent the whole child.
Right. I did that.
I grew up in that. I don't know why I knew that even before I started doing this work. I think like as a Christian, I tell people, I say, I think my biggest problem is that I really believe the word. Like I take it literally. So that scripture that says, he knitted you together in your mother's womb.
Yes.
Right? I thought when my children came to me, they're already knitted together by God. So my job is to figure out what they're knitted with. So I never saw them as something I needed to fix, shape, or mold. I just thought my job was to guide, because I was always trying to figure out what did God knit you with. And because of that, I was always trying to parent the whole soul, like the attitude, the heart, the spirit, the mind. And so I never thought of them as just the way they act. So when my son, who even to this day, since the child was 3 and could talk, he challenges everything. Why do I have to do it that way? Why are we going here, Mom? Instead of me seeing that as disobedience, I saw it as this child there's something in his soul that he needs to understand why. Because without the knowing, I could see him, his little body, he would get nervous. And I would say to my husband, because my husband was old school, he would say, you don't have to answer every question. You don't have to tell this child everything. I said, he needs to know. You can't put Bryson in a car and drive him somewhere without him knowing where he's going. I saw his anxiety come up at 3, at 4, at 5 years old. So I was like, what harm does it do to just tell him where we're going? Because he was like, okay, why are we going there? How long are we going to be there? Who's going to be there? He would just ask all these. He just needed to know to settle his little.
And that's just his personality.
That was his little personality. And so I, just seeing that, then getting into this line of work and understanding that back there for him was probably a level of anxiety. But seeing Brianna, living it as a teenager. And, it was heartbreaking. But one of the questions that I learned to ask both the kids when they would go through things is, what are your thoughts telling you right now? Because I was trying to teach them that there's something going on in your mind that you are believing, that you're not even verbalizing, you're not sharing it with me, but you are convinced that what you're thinking is so real. And sometimes the thought was, I don't have any friends. And now I can say, well, is that true? She's like, well, no, I have, like, she named one person. I'm like, well, that you can't not have any friends and have this one friend.
Right.
So let's think about the one friend, Brianna. So just bringing them into that place. My son's the same way. One day he could go stand on stage. Next day I could see it in his face. I was on campus one day and he's like completely shut down. This kid is usually bubble. I'm like, what's going on with you? He's like, I'm all right. I'm like, no, you're not. And I would ask them, Bryson, can I coach you? Because sometimes they'll say, Mom. Sometimes we just wish we had a regular mom. Like, it's like, so you want the mom that lets you stay in an emotional state that you can't get out of? Yeah, Mom, because sometimes we just want you to be mom and not a coach. So I began to ask them, can I coach you? And he said, sure. And so I sat down with him, and one of the techniques I would use is, when we're having those thoughts that you talked about earlier, being afraid, your mind telling you can't, you're never going to have, I call that little you. So I said to Bryce, I said, let's write down what you're thinking. He's like, I'm thinking nobody likes me, I'm never going to succeed, I'm not even sure if my friends are really my friends. Okay, let's write that down. I said, okay, let's name this person that thinks that. And he named him Little Bryson. So he did that. I said, okay, now tell me about the kid that just 2 days ago was standing on the stage, hosting the whole auditorium, having everybody crack up because you're the host. Tell me about him. He was like, he's fun, he's confident, he believes in himself. What are we calling him? He says, I'm calling him Bryson 2.0. What that did was that gave him an identity that when he's having these negative thoughts, he could choose, oh, I don't have to continue to believe these thoughts. When he's having, good thoughts, which is where he wants to be, he's like, okay, I'm confident. But it gave him the opportunity to choose, how long am I going to stay in Bryson?
Right.
Little Bryson? Oh, how do I get to Bryson 2.0? Brianna, it was a little bit more challenging for her because the way her mind is wired, her brain works. Brianna had to actually end up getting medicine. And it wasn't my first choice, but her dosage is very low. And to watch my daughter now come out of the room before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to have an appetite to, oh, you guys are playing Scrabble, can I play? We're like, what? Brianna wants to play with us? Just to be kind of her normal self. That was what I was happy about, being able to just study her, see who she was, and not give in to any of these so-called maybe stereotypes or ideas about mental health, but understanding that, everybody struggles and everybody's struggle is different. She can't, what we call, the scripture tells us, take every thought captive. Brianna she couldn't take every thought captive because they were going so fast for her, where Bryson could. And so, and that's what stress and anxiety is, right? It's your thoughts just on overload, telling you all of the scary negative things. There's a report that says anxiety is thinking of a future that you can't see in a very scary negative way, and depression is worrying about a past and really thinking on a past that has already happened, and you're thinking of it from a place of regret. In the present moment, that's what I love about scriptures, when Jesus is always like, peace, be still, like be present here with him. In the present moment is where you're going to find peace. If you can get your mind from going to, I call it crazy town.
She's got a name for everything.
Yeah, because in my mind I felt crazy. I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
Because my mind would take me to these very scary places. So I call that crazy town. But I would find myself, there's like little different exercises. I would do tapping. You heard of tapping?
I have
Emotional,
heard of tapping.
yeah. Freedom. That, it just brings you present, because you're like just putting your hand on your hand, just tapping. So that was one of the things I used. Sometimes my children was okay with using it, sometimes they're not. Some of my clients, the adults, I don't really work with teenagers, I only work with adults. Depending on the country they was from, they love tapping. Some of them was like, Caneisha, I'm not doing that. So we have to find other methods. But different things work for different people.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
We're not all the same.
We're not all the same, and it's okay.
Right.
It's
Absolutely, it's okay.
Yeah. So you find a thing that works for you to get you out of that stressful state. There's even been the times when I have my clients, we do it on what I did for Bryson on paper, we did it in mirrors. Let's identify what's going on in your mind. And so we would step from, okay, here's like little you or imposter you to the you want to be. And we do that on a mirror. Sometimes we dance it out. I think like one of the great ways to get stress or anxiety off you, put on your favorite song, just dance. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's exercise.
Yeah, and it shifts your state. It shifts your mind. And so there's just
Makes the
different things.
dopamine come out.
Yes. Miss my nurse friend, she knows all those.
I don't really know all of that, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask something and I forgot. Well, I can't remember, so we're not going to talk about that
Okay.
right now because I don't remember. Well, you know what? It's almost time for a break. So we'll take our next break, and then I want to talk. She's got a free couple seminar. Anybody who has any connections to a church out there, this next segment is for you because Caneisha can come into your church and she can do a couple seminar there for free. Hello. And I know you can tell just by talking to her for these first few minutes that she knows what she's talking about and she's good at it. You know, God made her a life coach. And I know what I was going to say. When you said something about your daughter being on medicine and it was so nice for her to come out of her room, you know, and eat and those kind of things. My youngest son was diagnosed with ADHD, and he was in the 3rd grade. Well, I mean, he was always different than my other 2 kids, you know, and I didn't know how to handle him or parent him because he was so different. Nor did my husband, you know, so we're mom and dad with this kid and we're like, we love you to pieces, what do we do with you?
Yeah.
But, and I remember, I mean, the kid went to the principal's office in kindergarten because he couldn't sit still, you know, and now he's 36, so you got to remember 36 years ago there wasn't a whole lot known about ADD or ADHD. And you know, I mean, he had teachers that said he would just concentrate, he could do it. And then he was brilliant, he has a high IQ, and so because he was academically gifted, instead of a teacher taking him out and saying, let's build a rocket, they'd say, here, help Johnny, he doesn't do too good in math, and they just give him more work. Well, who wants that? So, you know, and so the school really squashed him. But I remember when he was in the 3rd grade, the teacher would give an assignment, it was writing, and she'd put up on the board, Mr. Mittens went. Just a lead sentence. And then, you know, they were supposed to write a story. Well, prior to being on any medicine, he maybe had 3 sentences. He just could not make his thoughts focused. He could not concentrate. He could not think about what Mr. Mittens would do. And so we put him on it in those days, Ritalin. And like that, he wrote 3 pages.
Wow.
It was all in here, but it was so mushed up. And boing, 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 because that's what your brain does when you've got attention deficit, is you can't concentrate, you can't focus. And so, but I cried for a week because I didn't want my baby to be like that. I wanted my baby to be like all the other babies, which are really, that's really not even a true statement.
That's right.
It was my perception that those other kids were normal. I don't think there is a normal.
No, and that's what I tell tell Brianna all the time. I said the problem is that in our society we use the term normal, but there is no such thing. We're also very individual and different. And honestly, and some people may not like this, I get that a child with, because later we found, like this year we found out Brianna also has ADD, and she said that because she tests high, her showed up differently. She just shut down. Nobody ever thought that's what was going on with her. She could perform well. We didn't realize the energy it took from her to do it. And I was saying, I have another friend. Her son is on the autism spectrum. And this when we lived in China, and in China they really don't have any kind of help for that kind of thing. So she had to be the mom and had to figure out how to help her son in this environment. Right? There's no medication. There's nothing. But I said to her, I know it's difficult for you, and I'm not downplaying what you're going through, but every child is as unique as your son. The difference is his expression outwardly requires us to take charge and do something. Where our children who are quote unquote normal, they all need that level of attention. They all need a special, maybe learning plan for them to help them get things at a different level. But who has time?
Right.
So we want to group them all together, and as long as they work and function in this thing, but that's not the best for every child.
No, that's why I said about the school system when my kids were going through, and I don't know if it's still the same, it probably is, that, you know, the school system wanted round pegs to fit in round holes.
Yes.
Well, I had 2 square pegs and 1 round peg. And so both of my boys have, had problem. Both of them, especially my oldest, he was just deflated by school. To this day, he doesn't want to read a book. But anyway, we've got to take a break now. So when we come back, we're going to talk about her counseling and working with couples, just like she and her husband did, and what they had to do to get their marriage strong, and what she can do to help you guys get your marriage strong. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Hang on.
At Down East Hearing Care Associates, we are dedicated to taking care of every client by providing personal, high-quality hearing care services. My staff and I know hearing loss affects each person and their loved ones differently. So we give you the time and the care you need to ensure the hearing technology chosen fits your lifestyle. At Down East Hearing Care, we also make custom ear molds and specialize in emergency hearing aid repairs. Down East Hearing Care Associates has 2 locations, one in Knightdale and one in Rocky Mount. We have hearing lives to save.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
Hi, I'm Richard Goss, pharmacist and owner of Almonds Drug Store here in Rocky Mount. Here today with my wife and 2 daughters. For over 75 years, Almonds Drug Store has been the pharmacy of choice for residents of Edgecombe and Nash County. Our family is proud to call Rocky Mount home, and we are excited about the new services and products we are adding daily at both of our Almonds Drug Store's locations and also at our medical supply store.
Come in and see us at Almonds Medical Supply. We're an extension of Almonds Drug Stores, your local hometown pharmacy. We're here to service all your needs, from wheelchairs to walkers to orthopedic supports, compression hose to hard-to-find wound care supplies. And you'll always get that hometown customer service.
We want our patients to pay the best prices, get the best service available, and have a better pharmacy experience than they will get anywhere else. Our staff is committed to going above and beyond to meet our patients' needs. Whether it is working with your provider to get you the best medication at the best price, contacting your provider to get you refills or a prior authorization, or taking the time to review each of your medications with you personally, or perhaps even helping you find an old-time remedy or other hard-to-find items, your Almonds Drug Store staff will work hard to meet your pharmacy needs. At Almonds, we will deliver your prescriptions for free. Both of our stores have drive-through windows, we guarantee short wait times, and our pharmacists will come out to greet you personally and answer any questions you have. If you want to be met with a smiling face, or even want someone to greet you by name when you walk through the doors, we are the pharmacy for you.
Call Almonds Drugs today.
443-3138 or 446-0014.
All right. Hey, welcome back. I'm sitting here with Caneisha, and we've been talking about stress and kids and where she found out who she is and how she got to where she is. And now we're going to talk about her favorite subject, which is helping couples. So you go right on and tell us all about it.
Yeah, I believe in marriage. I'm a huge fan. Of course, I've been married for 24 years. 12 years into the marriage, my husband and I discovered that we weren't happily married. You know, I think we was playing the game. We didn't talk about it to one another. But once we began to dig in and do the work to find out what it was, marriage became for me then like a breath of life. I began to kind of see this is kind of what God meant when he said the two shall become one.
Right.
It's definitely a process, but what I really believe about marriage, and I know everybody may not believe this, but I believe marriage is the place where God heals us of all of our emotional soul wounds that happened when we were young. And I call a soul wound as a God girl, right? You know, the scriptures tells us in the beginning, prior to sin, that we was created in the image of God, and it was good. Mm-hmm. I think anything that makes us think, because the soul being our thoughts, our emotions, our behavior, anything that makes us think that we are not who God called us to be, that you're not a loving person, just even a loved person. Because sometimes, I know I may not behave loving, but I am still loved by God. So anything that makes me begin to think I'm less than what he says, I am good, that I am not in the image of God, that begins a wound inside of me. Mm-hmm. It begins to make my emotions think and believe I'm no good, I'm not smart, I'm not confident, I can't have low self-esteem because of this, just all these stories we tell ourselves. I call those soul wounds. And they begin in our life as children. You know, mom says the wrong thing. I was just listening to a story before I came tonight with this young lady. She said at 6 years old, some little girls accused her of something she didn't do. She runs in the house and tells her mom what happened, and instead of her mom listening to her, she says, if I find out you're lying, I'm going to beat you.
Oh.
And so what that made her do at 6, without her thinking about it,
shut down.
It shut down. Mm-hmm. She stopped speaking her truth. She stopped sharing with people what was going on. She wasn't conscious of this. It wasn't until this woman was an adult in a relationship with a man who would continue, that seemingly really cared about her. But he said to her, I don't know who you are. You never tell me how you really feel. Mm-hmm. And it was then she went to a therapist, and she began to do the inner work to find out. At 6 years old, that moment made her believe nobody's ever going to believe you. Mm-hmm. And so she began to play that out. That's what's happening in marriages. Mm-hmm. Our 6-year-old self, 10-year-old self, 5-year-old self, our wounded soul shows up. Our spouse do any little thing that resembles what we've experienced. Mm-hmm. And now we are mad all the time. He doesn't understand me. She doesn't believe me. And we're fighting in marriage. Or we're fighting each other. And so with Andre and I, when we start learning this, oh my God, yeah, I have this belief. That doesn't make sense, right? I had some beliefs that logically that makes no sense at all. My expectations of him, many of them was I remember my therapist said, can you do that? I was like, no. She said, how do you expect him to do that? I was literally requiring him to do something that I could not do and didn't even require of myself. So those are the places that the wounds begin to happen, right? But it was in the marriage where it's revealed, because now we're bumping heads, we're not gonna, and I say to people, God is doing that to show you who you are. Mm-hmm. And so instead of us going to God and say, if you just fix him, which used to be my prayer.
Oh yeah, me too. Fix him, God. I don't have any issues, but boy, does he have them.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then we begin to realize, because when God said to me the morning I prayed that prayer in the shower, he was like, what about you? I was like, oh, you're going to change the subject. I won't talk you no more, God. How dare you change the subject? We're talking about Andre. But it was those places that he wanted to come into. He wanted to say, hey, I want to heal you from believing that you can't be these things. So you're putting it on Dre to be great because you're afraid to try to be great. I was like, oh, okay.
stepped on a couple toes there,
A
didn't
lot
they?
of them. Yeah, and so when he began to heal those places in me and heal Andre's soul wounds, we went from being these broken people in the relationship to acknowledging our brokenness, but choosing to deal with them in a different way. And so that's what I like to help couples do. I really don't like doing, I think I said this earlier, I don't like doing couples counseling with both the husband and the wife in the beginning. Because if you come to me as a couple, this is what I've noticed, you're always trying to get me to take sides. Two, we often talk about the other person's problem or the issue at hand, but we don't have time to go in. Let's discover what your soul wounds are. Let's discover the messages of your soul wound. And let's discover how this is showing up in your marriage. And so we can get you to acknowledge that part of yourself, get aware that, oh, I do have this thought and belief. I am insisting that my wife do things this way, or as a wife, I am expecting these things of him because this thing happened to me. Oh, now I get the opportunity to change and make a better choice, which is why to me, healing is awakening to what you now think and believe, so you can get a new thought, and then you can choose. Like, if you want to continue on that path, you're welcome to. But you have the option now of something new in front of you. And so that's what I help my clients do.
Isn't that awesome, y'all?
That I just love, yeah.
I know. So tell us about this free couple seminar. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish by this flyer?
One, I want to help any organization, whether it's a church or an organization, reach out to their couples in a way that it feels safe. And maybe for some churches or some offices where they see the problem, right? You see your coworker coming to work, she's sad, frustrated, or mad because of what's going on in her home, and you don't know how to address it. Just bring me in 1 hour, and what I'll do is just offer one technique to just kind of, again, awaken the mind to, as you said earlier, about perspective. Because once a person shifts their perspective and get a new ideal about a thing, they begin to realize, oh, I'm powerful enough to change this. And I have worked with people, particularly women, who contact me. Of course, they think it's their husband. They work with me one-on-one for a while, and then they go, oh, it's me. And in that awareness, they begin to be able to shift and change their marriage and make it a better environment. So that's what I'm hoping, that just introduce what I do to the community, share some tools and techniques, because I have seen it, and I know that COVID this time has been so hard on marriages. Because now I'm stuck in the house with this person that
I thought I loved and I really don't even like.
Yeah. And what do we talk about now?
Yeah.
Because before, you're at work 8-9 hours a day. Right. I'm at work, we come home, we eat, and we sit and watch TV, and we go to bed. We don't talk. Now you're here.
And I got to talk to you.
I got to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to talk to you about. And I don't even know if I like you.
But I think some of what COVID brought, I think, which is good, is it showed us our busyness.
Yes.
And that we're way too busy. Yeah. And we, I know that my son and his wife and their kids, they really, spent time with each other doing things. And I remember at Christmas time, instead of doing the Advent calendar, they I think there was 25 chapters, and I think it was Luke. And so they read a chapter every night until Christmas.
Wow.
Instead of doing whatever, we all have little traditions that we do. I grew up Catholic, so we had the Advent calendar, the Advent wreath, and that kind of thing. And I just thought that was pretty cool. And so then, each child had to read, and the youngest one, she couldn't, and so, her mommy would say, we want all, and then she'd say, we want all a happy marriage, because she wanted to be part of it too.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I think that I can see in my own family, my children and their loved ones, that we have learned to spend more time together.
Yeah.
So it's good in some ways that you spend more time together, but it can be detrimental as well.
Yeah. I think like in my family, because we've been abroad, just the four of us, it felt normal to us for a little bit. Other than when we first got, we were stuck in my mom's house. She has it's a nice 3-bedroom home, but when you add
4 people,
4 new people,
yeah, it's pretty small.
It becomes very small, very fast. So that became very stressful for us. But yeah, COVID there was some, like you said, beautiful things that happened. Many people became homeowners, all these great things. But I also think COVID forced people to begin to go and like hear their thoughts. And some people aren't comfortable with what's going on in their head. And then also the awareness of realizing that I don't really know what's going on in my children's life. Because the busyness, they're at school, how you doing at school? Fine. And now they're home and you're like, I don't know what he or she's doing in that room all day, or I really don't know what's going on in my kid's life. And so it gave an opportunity to begin to have those conversations, which I hope that happened for a lot of people. But for other people, the isolation.
Yeah.
Very isolating.
And even like, you think of the people in nursing homes that didn't see, or people say, I haven't seen my mama in a year, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
So, all right, our time is up. We're done for the hour.
Wow.
So I hope you enjoyed listening to Caneisha. I think she's an interesting person. She's got lots to share and to give. So write down her number. Her name is Caneisha Berry, and berrythoughtfullife.com is her website, and there's her number, 919-345-8548, and give her a call. So it might be you that's in the office coming in grumpy every day. It might be your cubby mate that has these issues. Who knows? But just give her a call and we'll see what we can do. I want to promote her. I think she's got a lot of good ideas and a lot of good help in her, and we want to spread that throughout our city. As she said earlier, I can't remember if we were on air or not, but she said when she saw that little boy, or that teenage boy talking to his mama, trying to tell her about the anxiety, Caneisha wanted to go up, but she said people are so mean now and so crazy that, that mama could have just let loose on Caneisha. And that's true, unfortunately. The civility of our society has gone out the window for the most part. So.
I think people are so angry.
Yeah, that's what you said. They're angry. They are angry.
And I don't even know if they know why they're angry. I mean, I know they think they know why they're angry, but to get to the source of why they're really angry.
So anyway, we've got to quit. I will see you next week with more of Here's to Your Good Health. Good night.
Good night. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.